and welcome. I know it's been a while. If you're new here, you probably are like, what are you talking about? But yeah, it's been a while since I have had a video come out. It has not been my intention. I know I say that every time it's been a while, but this time I was having some sleep issues. I feel like it's gotten a little better. And I usually record early, so when I'm not sleeping well, I end up just sleeping in. So that is a big part of it. But then once I got the sleep kind of feeling like it was under control again, we got sick. We've basically been sick all of October. We had some sort of bug like 2 to 3 weeks ago. I was down with like 103-degree fever, and then once I was out for like 3 days on that, and then like my kids were all sick too. It was like a cold bug of some sort. It wasn't like the cold part wasn't so bad for me, but it was like the fever was terrible. But yeah, and then after that, my oldest daughter, she brought home a bug. I thought maybe she was just having some stomach issues because she's kind of had stomach issues since she was very little. And so sometimes they just flare up and she gets sick. But then like 2 days after she got sick, one of my other daughters got sick. And it's kind of been one of these weird bugs where it's like every 2 days, like someone else gets it. It only thankfully lasts for about 24 hours once they have it. Some of the kids have bounced back a lot faster than that, like maybe 12 to 18. But yeah, it's kind of like been very slowly working through our family. It's like a stomach virus of some sort. But yeah, it's like you think everyone who's gonna get it has gotten it, and then another kid gets it or something. I thought I was getting it yesterday, so that's why I didn't record yesterday, but then I ended up being fine. And there's a few of us who haven't gotten sick, so I have a feeling we're not quite out of the woods yet. But I wanted to get this video done before I keep putting it off and lose motivation. This was actually requested by a subscriber that I do a flip through, excuse me, of the two science curriculums we're using this year. The one I'm using for most of my kids and the one I'm using for my high school junior who is interested in engineering. So yeah, I want to honor that request. So if any of you ever have a request, I know with the unboxing videos, it's kind of hard to see what everything really looks like because I have to like go through it pretty quick, like not really detailed. So it doesn't give you like necessarily the best view of everything that I'm using. So if any of you all have requests of a video you'd like to see, it doesn't even have to be like about curriculum. It could be like questions about how our school day looks, or just like how I manage like a large family household, those sorts of things, whatever. I'm open to all sorts of suggestions. But yeah, because sometimes I lack like ideas of what to do anyway, so it's helpful to have some suggestions from time to time. But yeah, so this was, like I said, a suggestion, and I want to do it because it actually, I think, is a really good idea. Because yeah, I realize that not everyone likes necessarily just a quick overview of everything, and that it's nice to see a little more detail of what's in the book. So I'm gonna flip this camera around and show you. I'll start with what I have most of my kids going through. I'll show you the teacher's manual and the actual textbook, and then I will go through what my high schooler is doing and show you the teacher's manual and the textbook for that as well. Okay, so here is what I am using for most of my kids. It says grades 3rd through 8th for this one, but I'm actually using it 3rd through 10th because that's the nice thing about homeschooling, is you can kind of customize it to your kids' abilities. I'm not saying that my 10th grader isn't smart. It's just he's had some reading delays. He's doing much, much better. We've been really working hard on that, but he is doing a lot better. But it's just easier for him to just do whatever everyone else is doing, I think. Maybe in the next year or two, or even his senior year, he'll be able to do his own thing. But for now, I feel like this is advanced enough, even though it looks like it's for young kids. I feel like it's advanced enough that he's not really missing out on a challenge. Because some of this stuff, I'm like, man, I'm not going to remember that stuff either. So anyway, the teacher's manual, it's pretty straightforward with all of Master Books, how they lay out their teacher's manual. The only one that out of the ones I've purchased where it's different is the language arts in high school, the American history we're using. It doesn't have the schedule, the daily schedule in it, like the rest of these books have, and it doesn't have like regular worksheets. It actually just in the textbook has like little boxes that they fill out, and then in the teacher's manual has like tests, but that's a different subject. So if y'all ever want to see that, I can film that too, just to show you how it's different. So yeah, pretty straightforward. You have your like obviously your scope and sequence type thing that every homeschool textbook teacher's manual seems to have. But it's also just telling you where it's got its views from, and it's kind of borrowing from Answers in Genesis with the 7 C's: creation, corruption, catastrophe, and then you have confusion, Christ, cross, and consummation. So it's just, if you're familiar with that, yeah, it's a good way to study science for sure, in my opinion. But yeah, if you do end up getting this curriculum, you could always look at that more in depth. So that, and then after the scope and sequence type thing, that is where you will find your day-to-day schedule. And then all throughout here, the thing I like about this is maybe it's not a full quarter because there's only 3 areas. There's weather and water, universe, and planet Earth is covered in this book specifically. I thought it was maybe by quarter, but maybe it's a little more like trimesters. So yeah, but I do like that it's broken up. So the first part of this book is we've been going over weather and water, and it's been really fun. There's always like a supply list for what you need for your experiments. I do recommend getting the experiment kit because it does make it easier for those odd items that you might not have lying around the house. Honestly, there's been a couple where they've wanted us to have a 2-liter bottle, and I've had to skip those because we don't really use 2 liters for anything. And I never like plan ahead enough to ask friends, hey, does anyone have a 2-liter that I could borrow? But yeah, so I do recommend getting that science kit, so the experiment kit, just so that you have those odd items that are not necessarily something you have just lying around. So most of the worksheets are laid out like this. You have the chapter number, and the first chapter is Christian Worldview of Weather. Your supply list, which it actually just has like a weather across the country worksheet for this one, which if you're just using this for your household, you can photocopy these, which has been a huge lifesaver for me. I actually have one of those Epson printers where you just refill the ink instead of having to buy cartridges, and it's been kind of awesome, not gonna lie. And the ink lasts a long time too. So anyway, and then it has what did we learn? These are like basic questions. Every worksheet, like I said, is almost laid out exactly the same. So then you have, okay, so supply list, supplies for challenge, which is like a more advanced work, like experiment kind of thing. They don't have that every time. Sometimes it's just one experiment, and we usually only do one experiment if we have all the materials, that is. And then we have the simple questions, like I just mentioned, and then they have taking it further questions, which honestly, I have a tendency to skip. So again, the next one, you have the supply list, supplies for the challenge, what did we learn, questions, and then on the back of this worksheet will be your taking it further questions. I typically do not do the taking it further questions because I feel like they might be a little too hard for my younger kids. I could probably be doing them for my older kids, but yeah, it's like by the time we get around to science every day, I feel like some of my kids are almost checked out, especially the two youngest. So it's like if I can shorten it in some way where they're still getting a lot of information and still learning from it, then I will. And yeah, I could probably just do those with my older kids. I don't know why I didn't think about that. So that is, we are actually almost done with this unit. I believe, so yeah, because I think we do this world map at the end of this week, where it's just labeling the oceans, I believe. Then we have composition of seawater, ocean currents. Well, I had like a final project, so I thought we were getting close to being done. But weather and water goes a little ways. And then after that, there's 35 lessons for that, which is a little more than 35 days long because, you know, there's quizzes in there too. And then next we have astronomy, and it's our universe, God's design for heaven and earth. And then again, it's laid out the same for astronomy. You have your supply list, supplies for challenge. If you do the challenge, what did we learn? And you're taking it further questions. And then these worksheets are a little more detailed. It has Bible verses for this first one. I was designed to rule the day. And then you use the Bible to look up what was designed to rule the day. And then you have knowledge of stars worksheets. And then here you have space models. You have supply list, supplies for challenge, what did we learn, and then again with the taking it further questions. So yeah, it's kind of, there's a variety of things. It's not all gonna be just questions and experiments, but my kids have been really enjoying having experiments to do. So again, that's why I highly recommend getting the experiment kits, because it does make it more hands-on and fun. Like we did one where it was like, I think air pressure that involved a candle, and my kids thought it was like the coolest thing. Basically, you put like water in a dish and a little candle on it, and then you put like a jar, and then you wait till the candle goes out and the water like rises in the jar, and my kids thought that was super cool. But anyway, and then we have our earth science is the last unit, and again, same basic layout. You have supply list, what did we learn, and then the taking it further questions, and then there's probably different, like a geology scavenger hunt worksheet. So there is a variety. It's not all just like I said, it's not just all questions and answers, and there's other things, like at some point they're gonna have to label rocks apparently. But yeah, so it's pretty cool. And then after the worksheets, which there's a word search. My kids actually love word searches. Some of them do anyway. Some of them it's like, just do at least like 10 or half. But others will be like, I want to do the whole thing. So, yeah. So some of my kids really do love word searches. And then after all the worksheets, you have the quiz section, and it too is broken down by the topic, the unit, I guess, is what you could say. And so you have the weather and water quizzes and final exam. But like, it does say where the quizzes are located in here anyway, so it's not like you're like, okay, I need to hunt for it. So your little schedule will have the page numbers for everything, so you're not left hunting it down. But sometimes, not to bash master books, but there have been a couple times where the page numbers have been wrong, so I have had to hunt I haven't had that in this book yet, but other books I have had that issue a little bit. So here you have your quizzes. Some of them are fill in the blank. Some of them are multiple choice and true and false, which my kids tend to like. And then here on the cloud one, they actually had a word bank for fill in the blank, which makes it nice and easy. There are challenge questions. I sometimes won't have my kids do them, if I'm completely honest, because, you know, you do what you know your kids are at, where your kids are at. You meet them where they're at. You do want to challenge them, obviously, because, you know, they do need to learn. But, yeah, so there's also, like this one, multiple choice. So, yeah, so this is how it is laid out. And it tells you the quiz number, what lessons it's covering, and then it has a spot to score it. So, I don't know what the final exam looks like. Maybe I should look at it. Okay, so here's the final exam for our universe, for example. I must have flipped ahead enough to get into the universe section. It has a word bank, thankfully, for the fill in the blank. And it tells you how many points for each answer as well. So it takes the guesswork out of that on how you need to score it. Then it has a matching one, I think. No, wait. One, you need to list one unique characteristic of each planet, and then some more short answer questions. And then there's challenge questions, which are just true and false. So, which true and false, I don't know if I'd really call those challenge questions, but they might be. I'm not looking at them, so they might be actually kind of challenging on whether or not. They might be those kinds of questions where they're so close, they're almost right. But yeah, so that is the teacher's manual. And after all the tests and quizzes, you have the answer keys for worksheets. And then you will have in the very back, you will have the answer keys for the quizzes as well. So, and then the final exam answers as well. So that is how the teacher's manual is laid out. For physics, which I'm doing for my oldest, is basically the same, but I'll still show you. So here's the textbook. Unfortunately, it's already fallen apart. I haven't had that happen. Don't think that that's a normal thing. This is the first time this has actually happened to me. So yeah. So you'll have your unit breakdown. This, let's see. And obviously, like all your acknowledgements, copyright, all that. But yeah, so you'll have your unit breakdown. The first unit is atmosphere and meteorology. Unit 2 is ancient weather and climate. So this is for our weather and water. There's, let's see how many units there are. There are 7 units for weather and water. Some of them are longer than others, as you can see. But for the most part, they are each about a week or so long, because sometimes there's special features, but I will show you what that means. So you're also probably wondering, how do you know what to do for the science experiments? I will show you. So here it tells you what to do, how to use this curriculum for 3rd through 5th grade, and then how to use it for 6th through 8th grade. So for 3rd to 5th, you're going to want to do the activity in a light blue box, which worksheets will be provided. Test your knowledge by answering the what did we learn questions, and assess your understanding by answering the taking it further questions. And then 6th through 8th is to do the activity in the light blue box. Test your knowledge by doing the what did we learn questions. Assess your understanding by the taking it further. And then do the challenge section in the light green box. So here is a sample lesson. This is lesson number 1. This is where my pages are falling out. So it has a main question at the top. It tells you, well, it tells you what it's covering. It's a Christian view of weather for chapter 1. And what does the Bible say? And then the question is, what events in history have affected our weather? And then you read just this little section, these 2 areas, and then you have the what did we learn, which these are going to be the same questions that are on the worksheet under what did we learn on the worksheet. So there's one. Let's see, did I put the pages in here wrong? I might have, yeah. Anyway, and then you have the taking it further questions. Then you have weather reports, so they can make a little weather report. My kids actually had a lot of fun with this. We just used my weather app and looked up the weather and the locations that they had listed on the worksheet. And they just thought it was really fun. And then the Bible-believing scientists, you could do if you want to, and it's choose a Christian scientist from the past and research his contributions to science, and then write a short report. You can make your kids do that if you want. My kids are already doing kind of a lot of writing with their language arts, so I don't make them do a lot of extra essays because I don't want them to be overwhelmed with the workload. And then chapter 2, structure of the atmosphere. So everything is kind of laid out the same. I'm going to see if I can find one of... Oh, they have fun facts too in some of these. And then it has like how to do the experiments, like a cloud in a bottle. I tried this one. I broke the jar in the process. So I probably did something wrong. I don't know. But anyway, and then I'm trying to see if I can find one of these special features so that I can show you all what that is like. Okay, here's a special feature. We just did this one not that long ago, like a week or two ago, and it was the Dust Bowl. So it was telling just the what the Dust Bowl was and how it was a difficult time in history, and it shared a couple pictures from that time. So yeah, they have these sometimes, some days, like if they have a special feature, like this is all you do for science. There's no experiment. You just read the special feature. So it's kind of nice. And then just to give you more of a look, they do have a conclusion for the last section, the last chapter of weather and water. So they do have a conclusion. I'm guessing they probably do that with every... I haven't looked ahead. I'm guessing they do that with every unit. They probably have a conclusion. Yep, conclusion again for the universe section. And then for Earth, they probably also have a conclusion. So yeah, so that's the basic layout. You have like a little lesson. Some of the lessons are longer than others. And then you have the fun facts mixed in there. You have, ooh, sorry, just bumped my camera. And then you have like the little studying events or whatever they have you studying. And then of course, like your experiments, if there's an experiment for that day. Sometimes these blue boxes, the experiments are usually in the blue boxes. Well, they're always in the blue boxes, but sometimes the blue boxes aren't necessarily an experiment. It's just a worksheet, like that weather one where it's weather around the country, weather reports. I wouldn't really call that an experiment since you're just writing down information. But yeah, so it's not always experiments, but typically your experiments are always going to be in the blue box. So that is it for this one. I think the physics one I could show you a bit quicker. So the reason I'm doing physics with this kid is because he is planning on going into engineering. So we did skip chemistry because he's not like going into chemical engineering. He's leaning toward, I think, mostly leaning toward electrical, but he was for a time thinking maybe mechanical, but engineering, either way, I feel like physics would be a good route for him, just to have like that like foundational thing. So yeah, so this is basically the same type of layout. You have all your acknowledgments and then the permission to print the worksheets if you're using them in your house only, and then your table of content, your target level. This is for grades 10 through 12 and it's 1 credit. And they tell you about how much time they expect. I do believe they do that in the other one too. I think all their books tell you about how much time it should take each day. But it doesn't always take as long as it says, and sometimes it takes a little longer. So 45 to 60 minutes, 5 days per week. It's an open and go type of curriculum, which is what drew me to Masterbooks. Honestly, a lot of their stuff is just open and go. And then it has worksheets and labs and quizzes and exams. And then just your scope and sequence type stuff. And then your worksheets. These are going to be a lot different, I guess. Why is it day 5, I guess? Oh, this is just a sample of a laboratory. I guess if you want to see the sample, this is what a lab report looks like. Once it's all filled in, I guess. And then you have also another lab report. But you have your supply list, which, again, I bought the experiment kit, excuse me, for this as well. But someone ran off. We don't know who the culprit is. Someone ran off with some of our things, like the fishing weights randomly went missing. I know they were in there, but we had some things go missing. Excuse me. But yeah, so it gives you a list of what you're going to need for supplies if you want to just hunt down the supplies on your own. There was like one review on this experiment kit, and the one review that was there said like everything's kind of cheap. You might want to get some other stuff. We have kind of run into that with a couple things, like the digital scale didn't quite suit the needs of what we were needing, what my son was needing for his experiment. I think it didn't do a small measurements as what he needed. But it's probably hard to find a scale that has those kinds of measurements on it. But anyway, so there's your supply list. It breaks it down by week, because I think this is only 28 weeks, but I could be wrong. Here, let me look. Well, I'll get there once we get to our thing. Then it says instructions for quizzes and experiments, how to grade them, all that jazz, grading sheets. I kind of just keep grades in here just because, well, obviously not in the physical manual, but I print up the schedule so that I can just keep a running list of the grades. It just makes it really simple so that I can get a final score at the end of the year. So each week for physics is laid out pretty much the same, so you know what to expect each week. So you're gonna have a lesson worksheet. You're either gonna have one or two of them, and then on day 3 is when they start the lab, and then they finish the lab and the report on day 4, and then day 5 there's always a quiz, unless it's one of these weeks where they have your child study the first lesson worksheet as well as the quiz, and then at the end of the week they take a exam. So every week you kind of know what to expect each week. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward. And then you have, so here's what a worksheet looks like, just a sample one. Lesson 1, there's some multiple choice and then a short answer explaining what physics is exactly. Then there's some fill in the blanks. And then there's a second worksheet for week 1, and it's fill in the blank and then matching. And then they have to fill in this diagram of the arc, it looks like. And then this is how lab worksheets are. They're laid out the same every week. There is a required materials list, the introduction, the purpose of the experiment, and the procedure. And then there's notes. There's a spot, I don't know if you can see the lines super well on the camera, but there's like lots of lines for note taking while doing the experiment, so that when they do the write-up, they'll hopefully remember what they need to write. Then on the opposite side, on the back side of the page, it has question, research, the hypothesis, experiment, analyze, and the conclusion of the experiment. So that's how all the lab sheets work. And then you have the lab report, which is, you know, all your math and things for the experiment, and then some questions like write out your hypothesis as to why the boat floated in step 6 and why it sank in step 7. So you have like just that. It gets them to think critically on the experiments. So again, all every week is laid out kind of the same. You have lesson 2, worksheet 1 for that week, and then it goes, and then there is a worksheet this for the second day as well. And then again, supplies, introduction, purpose, procedure, all those things. And then again, like I said, most of these are laid out basically the same. Oh, there's a 1-page double-spaced report that needs to be written for a lab report at one point, the last one. So yeah, not all the worksheets are going to be exactly the same. There's some that are going to be math, some that are going to be fill in the blank, multiple choice, all those things. And then after you have all your worksheets, again, the page numbers are listed so you don't have to go hunting around for them on the schedule, the daily schedule. So quizzes for use with physics is right here. After all the lessons and the lab reports and all that stuff, you have your quizzes. And so there's a quiz, like I said, every week except for the weeks where there's an exam instead. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. The quizzes, again, there is going to be a variety of styles of quizzes. I could kind of show you that. So it looks like a lot of them are multiple choice, honestly, with a little bit of, yeah, it looks like a lot of multiple choice, just flipping through this. So yeah, basically all multiple choice. Match the correct answer, which again is multiple choice because you pick A, B, or C, or D, or E. So still multiple choice in my opinion. It's just a different version of it, but it is matching, I guess, if you do lines like I used to do in school to match the answer. And then after your quizzes, you have the exams, which there aren't too many of those, and those are match correct answer, circle the correct answer, which is multiple choice, and then you have some more multiple choice, and then circle the correct answer, which again, multiple choice, and then this one you have to use the diagram to answer the question. It's supposed to help answer questions 28 and 29. So, and then here you have another diagram to help answer that question. So it's all multiple choice, which I know some people think, oh, that's too easy, but it's physics, so it's not super easy. Okay, yeah, because again, like sometimes they throw you for a loop with questions. It's like, oh, the answers are so close. It could be one of these, and I'm not sure which one. So yeah, multiple choice, not always easy. Some people used to call it multiple guess when I was in school. Because sometimes that's what you're doing. You're just saying a prayer and guessing that and hoping that you got the right one. But anyway, and then in the back, after all the quizzes and exams, you have the answer keys for worksheets, labs, quizzes, and exams. So you will know how to properly grade everything. So yeah, that is pretty, I feel like it's pretty straightforward because everything with, like I said, with Masterbooks, mostly everything is laid out exactly the same way. So yeah, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you like what I have to offer as far as homeschooling and just other things. So yeah, if you have any suggestions, again, feel free to comment some suggestions of something you would like to see, like another flip through of another subject maybe. I don't know. But yeah, feel free to share those with me. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all the things. And I will hopefully see you all next time. Bye!